Let's hear the English translation of President Ghulam Osman's article titled, "The Signature Campaign is in Crisis."
The signature campaign is in crisis. Our main organizing campaign, which we carried out among the East Turkestanis in Turkey under the slogan opposing cooperation with China and expressing the desire for full independence, was met with vehement opposition. The East Turkestan Foundation Society firmly opposed it, as far as we know. Why did they object to it so vehemently? Do they share a commonality with China for such opposition, I wonder? Should they not be proud of such a campaign, if not? This signature campaign, at the very least, showed that the people of East Turkestan are more aware, concerned about their national fate, able to express their demands, and unwilling to let certain people or organizations sell their interests. That is improvement. There is no need to be furious about this signature campaign, and anybody or any group fighting for the independence of the motherland should be pleased with it, isn't it? How can we comprehend those folks who are angry with the rise in awareness among our people? Of course, everyone is aware of why they are upset. The Honorable General Mr. Mohammad Reza Bekin intended to terrify individuals who engaged in the signature campaign by threatening to drive them off the Turkish border and spreading threatening language. See, Taranci, on the other hand, assembled people on December 10th in Madrasa, where the East Turkestan Foundation Society is located, under the pretense of having an iftar, to disparage the signature collection efforts, to condemn individuals who organized it, and even to suggest that there might be a Chinese hand behind it. However, did it change so that those who agreed to a deal with Han Chinese became patriots, and those who opposed such treacherous behavior turned suspicious? Absolute rubbish. What type of cause is this, sir? You are in charge of our cause here in Turkey, yet your factory is operating normally in Gulja, back in East Turkestan? At the time, the general's justification was that cooperation with the Democratic Chinese was stipulated in the alleged Article 8 of the 1992 First East Turkestan National Congress decision. In light of this, doing so is allegedly completely acceptable. But I'm curious as to who can ensure that Congress won't make a bad choice. Must a bad choice be carried out even if it was made? No one noticed or possibly even paid attention to the fact that such a Congress decision was made at the time due to the poor awareness of our people. What's even worse is that the Chinese have not officially recognized East Turkestan as a colony. With the Chinese, it is impossible to work together in any capacity because they won't even call our nation by its Uyghur name. Isn't it reasonable to require that the Chinese speak our country's name correctly first if such cooperation is required? Since the Chinese even dodge such precondition, it is impossible to tell what type of cooperation they're establishing with them. As a result, such cooperation with the Chinese should be stopped at the outset. The second step doesn't even need to be considered. Isn't it absurd that those supposedly intelligent people who can't even comprehend such a logical arrangement are fighting for our motherland? Where there is fear, there is a devil, as evidenced by the East Turkestan Foundation's current actions. We can speculate that they were willing to engage in such a deceptive act because the East Turkestan Foundation, even the National Center, signed a humiliating agreement with the Chinese magazine Beijing Spring last year. 6 of our great people, professing to represent one country and one nation, had signed the agreement with Xu Wei, the editor of the magazine Beijing Spring. First and foremost, if we realize that agreements should be struck between persons of equal branch and standing, we can see how dumb these great men are. 6 people who claim to represent one country, one nation, even if they do it for show or to amuse themselves by claiming that, are the president of the East Turkestan National Center, the head of East Turkestan Foundation, Mr. Mohammad Reza Bekin, the vice president of East Turkestan National Center, Mr. Siyit Taranci. As if the president's signature is not enough, the vice president must sign as well. Executive chairman of the East Turkestan National Center, Mr. Oblikim Baki Iltabir. The head of the East Turkestan National Center Watan Fund, Mr. Tursun Taranci. Member of the Prosecution Committee of the East Turkestan National Center, Mr. Hamut Han Kalk Turk. And a member of the Foreign Relations Committee of the East Turkestan National Center, Mr. Erkan Ekrem. According to their own lovely dreams, they are, at least, the greatest East Turkestanis in the outside world, and no one is greater than them. A single magazine editor and this band of giants signed a collaboration deal. Regardless of the terms of the agreement, we have witnessed here the foolish behavior of a group of individuals who lack a firm sense of who they are. What additional evils do these people not commit? How can these individuals be trusted? They reasoned that as long as it was an agreement, signing their autographs must be a good thing, so they rushed to do it. They had no idea that performing such a meaningless act was harming their reputation. This is the outcome of the Great China mentality, which is ingrained in the blood and is characterized by low self-esteem, an inferiority complex, enslavement, and a diseased mentality. Therefore, they did not think that even the last signatory, Mr. Erkan, would be excessive for a low-status Chinese editor. Instead, they believed and took pleasure in signing an agreement with the great Han Chinese. So, this is the level and qualification of these miserable and pathetic leaders. If we consider the actions of these leaders and link them to the explanations for why they accuse our recent signature-gathering campaign while defending their own collaboration agreement with the Chinese, it is simple to come to the conclusion that our signature-gathering campaign was highly appropriate and timely. It is becoming more and more obvious that these individuals need to be informed of our people's opinions and desires. If nothing else, our signature-gathering campaign became a disaster prevention alert. Additionally, it conveyed our people's fundamental aspiration. No one can represent us if they advocate anything other than independence. It declared that individuals who entered into humiliating agreements with the Chinese could not represent us. Some miserable people who lived for profit signed their names in the expectation that it might create a certain profit. However, once they heard the warning from the boss, the general, they were terrified and completely withdrew themselves from our signature-gathering campaign. This suggests that they signed a signature without knowing what was right and wrong from the start, and afterwards, still without knowing what was right, they slavishly got out of the signature campaign for the sake of the boss. Some even treasonously requested that their signature be erased. Many even turned 180 degrees within the day and became flatterers of the boss. Although they did not receive death sentence, they expressed the blood-borne slavery mentality. They aren't paying attention to the fact that what they signed is a statement expressing that they want complete independence, not a document stating, "I borrowed $100. Instead, their shameful getaway excuses were, "What will someone say if I sign the signature?" It turned out that everyone left me alone, and I ended up being the friends in disaster with all but a few of my close companions. With tears in my eyes, I'm left wondering, what kind of people are we? I then jotted down this occurrence. December the 15th, 2000, evening.